Well, hey, everybody. Getting ready to record episode 151 of Mike in the Midwest. So here we go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 151 of Mike in the Midwest, a mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rollman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find us where you download all your favorite podcasts. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Thursdays, you get the replay of the Sunday show. And of course, we want you to be a part of the Sunday Night Live call-in show because that thing is getting more and more popular. And we appreciate that. This past Sunday night, we had so many calls and that was so much fun for Scott and I. So make it a point if you have chance. I know it's summertime and you got plans with your friends and family, but if you have a few minutes, we do record on Sunday nights from 7 to 8 Eastern, 6 to 7 Central, just a quick hour where we open up the phone lines and take your calls, and we can talk about anything you like when it comes to Disney topics. So we would love to have you join us this Sunday night. Give us a call. We could talk about anything you like. Usually, we have that topic out there from the Friday podcast. This week, we'll be talking about sleeper table service restaurants because that's what we're talking about on this coming Friday show. Pam and Ricky join me and we talk about that. So if you have a sleeper restaurant when it comes to table service down at Walt Disney World that you like, that you go to, let us know. Because you got to listen to the show first on Friday though, because maybe I picked Tusker House in the theme parks. I never hear anybody talk about Tusker House, and you can always get an ADR there. And it's just a great table service character meal. I just think nobody thinks about it, and it's got good food. So if you have one of those places, let us know Sunday night. But yeah, we have podcasts all the time, and we appreciate it. It's because of your support. I know I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and I've heard other podcasts talk about how donations help keep their backlog up, and they might have hundreds of shows. We have thousands of shows. So trust me, your donations help us keep 2,300 podcasts out there for everybody to enjoy anytime you want, from all the way back to 2008. 3 shows a week, and we appreciate that so very much. Also, we maintain all this video stuff and do a lot of events. Also, behind the scenes here, let me give you a little firsthand. You'll be the first to know. We are doing a big fundraiser in-person event in Florida coming up this fall. So you are the first to know. We don't have details on it quite yet, but I think it's going to be in September. And I think it's going to be at Give Kids the World Village with the team. So we're having a Zoom call actually later this week. We'll have more details soon. And if you can get down there, we would love to meet you in person as we record live from the village. But if not, here's the cool thing. We did this back in 2020, like during the height of COVID. Ricky and I went down to the village. We recorded live. We did a live show right there from Give Kids the World. And then afterwards, we walked through the Night of a Million Lights, and that was super cool. And Pam was supposed to go. She got sick a couple days before, couldn't join us. But the cool thing is we're going to have tons and tons of items up for auction during the show that have been donated to us. So you're going to be able to bid on cool Disney items to add to your collection. Ornaments for your Christmas tree, trinkets, hats, shirts, all kinds of Disney items, and all the money will go to Give Kids the World. So be ready for that coming up this fall. So maybe squirrel away a little money for that, for the good people, because we love Give Kids the World and we just haven't been able to do much for them over the past couple of years. It's been crazy, but we have podcast cruise happening. Holy cow, in less than 4 weeks. And then once we get back from that in the beginning of July, we're focusing on the fall, Give Kids the World, and just we always try to keep the momentum of the podcast going so we can meet with our listeners and just always have a good time. I got to turn my volume up here a little bit so I can hear myself a little better. And there we go. All right. So today, let's talk about what's going on around here. I'll tell you what. Little dad talk here. I've been working downstairs all morning, and it's summer, right? It's summertime, and our high school, obviously, we've talked about this many times. Mallory's a varsity cheerleader now for Francis Hall High School, where she goes to high school, and they're offering this really cool thing this summer for exclusively for female athletes, and it's a performance camp. And what it is, it's across disciplines. It's for any female athlete in the high school. And our high school is very competitive when it comes to sports. I mean, you've seen me probably on social media tweet about our football team won state, our baseball team, unfortunately, we made it to the state finals. We were second in the state. We didn't have our best game Saturday night. We came in second to the two-time defending state champion, so it's not terrible. But our team plays Francis Hall. Our teams are pretty good in almost every sport, which is fun. More importantly, our kids are really good kids. That's what I like to see. They're academically sound. They're good citizens. They're out volunteering in the community. They're super polite for the most part. Every kid I've interacted with in our community, and we're new to this community. We just moved here 3 years ago, but I like the way our kids act in our community. They seem to be good people. But our athletic director put together this thing, and it started last year. And again, Mallory she's a freshman this past year. It's this first year she got a chance to do it. It's what's called a female performance camp, and it's just for the female athletes, where it's kind of like a multidisciplinary thing where it's about mental toughness for female athletes. There's a lot of, like, they're going to get out there, they're going to run, they're going to, stretch, they're going to strength train, they're going to lift weights, they're going to do all kinds of cross-disciplinary things. And we encourage Mallory to try out because cheerleaders are athletes. And the thing is, like, when I was in high school, I didn't see cheerleaders as athletes. This is one of the things I've talked about on the podcast probably over the last 7 or 8 years that has opened my eyes being a dad, is that I never saw cheerleaders or dancers as athletes because I just didn't have the knowledge as to what it was. But having gone to all-star cheer competitions and things like that over the past, however long, 7 or 8 years of my life, I've learned that these girls and these young women that compete in cheer, all-star cheer especially, are tremendous athletes. They do things that the guys cannot fathom to do. And so I think I even got to talk to her. She has the first day of the Female Performance Academy that she went to, and it could go either way. She's a tremendous athlete, but cheerleaders typically don't run. Cheerleaders typically don't lift weights. They do all kinds of different stuff, like in their training at the gym. So she's going to be out there with soccer players, volleyball players, softball players. It's going to be like a wild mix because, the cheerleaders usually stay with the cheerleaders and they don't train the way the lacrosse team does and the soccer team. I mean, the soccer players are definitely going to have more cardio than the cheerleaders. The cheerleaders can flip where the soccer players can't. I think this is a great idea, though. I love the idea of, and they're bringing in these female leaders from different universities for a couple of weeks, for like a month, to teach mental acuity, mental toughness when it comes to athletic competitions, how to be prepared, how to prepare your body, how to get good nutrition, how to win the battle in the moment, and, how to train and how to rest and how to recover. I love this idea. And I love the idea that a lacrosse player could learn from a cheerleader and that a cheerleader could learn from a soccer player. But I think it's going to be a wild stew the first couple of days, right? Because, if like, okay, we're going to all go run. Well, I mean, if you got a cross country runner going against a cheerleader, they're going to drop them like a bad habit, at first. And it's going to be a self-esteem battle because the skill sets across different disciplines is going to be so wide. And initially, I think that is going to be something that's really hard to overcome for all different groups, right? Because especially in high school girls, I think there's like a self-esteem issue at first. Not maybe athletes are stronger, but not all. But here's the thing. I think that if all these girls work together and battle through it, there's such a tremendous opportunity for learning because everybody has such a different skill set. And if everybody could take a little bit away from each other's, their skill set, if a lacrosse player could learn from the cheerleader how to be more flexible and how to be more dexterous, there's so much you could learn from each other. I think that everybody could walk out of there a better athlete in the end. Everybody could learn from each other, but it's going to be a wicked stew the first couple of days because some people are going to be so far ahead in different disciplines like running and lifting and stuff like that. It's going to be wild. Obviously I'm not going to be there, but I just think it's such a unique concept, this female performance academy. Mallory went to the first day. It starts at 7 a.m. And of course she did not want to go, get up at 6:30 in the morning and, a couple first days of summer. But in the end, it's worth it, right? If you're an athlete, you got to make sacrifices to get better. That's the whole deal. And so I haven't got to talk to her because I've been down here working in the office all morning. But lunch is coming up here soon, so I can't wait to get some feedback. I hope it went well for her because I think it's a great opportunity. With every great stride takes sacrifice, right? And you feel good on the backside of it that you did work hard and it stunk, and it hurt. But on the backside, you grew and you got a little bit better because you went through the pain, you went through the sacrifice. But it is hard to go through that sacrifice. It's hard to have the pain and the hurt. But I like this idea. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't know if you've ever had anything similar to that in your area. If you've gone through a program like that, it's totally new to me. But I just want to throw that out there. That's something that's going on around here. I just want to see if you guys had any feedback on that. All right, speaking of feedback, let's go over the feedback from last week's show. Last week, I talked about project graduation at Hazelwood Central back in 1992 and how it was one of the best nights of my life, man. But then it was the best night of my life because I hung out with Fred, Ray, and Corey, my three best buds. We played poker in the small gym with fake chips. We ate so much Domino's and Papa John's. We danced in the commons. We were down in the basketball. We shot hoops in the gym, in the big gym. We ran into the Velcro wall. We did all kinds of stuff. We got hypnotized. I talked about that. It was crazy. It was the best night. We just got locked into our Hazelwood Central High School. We swam. It was amazing. But then it hit at the end of the night. The DJ puts on Boys to Men. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. And, boom, everybody's sad and they kick you out. And it's like, okay, now high school's over. You can never come back. What are you going to do with your life? Kind of thing. And the sun's coming up and you're exhausted. It was rough. So I saw pictures on social media of Francis Howell, our high school's project graduation. And they didn't call project graduation. They called it like grad night or something this past Saturday night because our high school graduated Saturday night here. And I didn't know. I knew they did it, but I didn't know exactly what it was like. Holy cow. When I thought ours was fancy, I didn't know how they did it. I didn't know because, again, we're kind of still new to the community, right? And Mallory was a freshman this year. So we're still learning how things go at the high school. And we're on the cheer boosters. So we're trying to get involved with the high school. Like we're on the boosters. So we help raise money for the cheerleading squad and fundraise and all that stuff. So we're, some meetings at the high school, but not everything. But I saw pictures on social media of their grad night or whatever, their lock-in. Okay. So I thought we were fancy because we had like fake poker and like this Velcro wall. All I saw was they could not have had this at the high school because I saw like 4 pictures on Twitter. And one of them was a air hockey machine. And it was like 3 of them like lined up. I mean, big full-size air hockey machines. There's no way they brought in full-size air hockey machines to the high school. Another one was a zip line going across like a room. I'm sure they had to have had this. Maybe they rented out like a main event or one of those kind of venues. They had to have rented out like a big venue, something like a Dave and Buster's or something, because it had like lights and fog and stuff. I mean, that's the way to do it, right? I mean, because our school has the means with some of our people. We have a country club that we do not live in a country club. We live in a very small house right outside of where the country club is, but there's a country club behind us. And so some of these people may have the means to donate to do something like that. But I saw the pictures and I'm like, dang, I thought we had a nice project graduation. These kids, I mean, they would have had a blast. I saw like a karaoke machine, but there was also like a box where you went into the box and had like the wind machine where you grab things. And oh my gosh, it looked like a good time. And that's the whole thing, is the kids look like they were having a good time again with their friends. They're in a safe environment. And I'm seeing it from the kids' point of view still, because that's who I am. I still feel like I'm 17 sometimes, but also I see it from the parent point of view. I want to know when Mallory graduates in a few years, God willing, that she is locked into a place with her friends that are safe. Like she is locked in there for 7-8 hours. And I know she is there. Now, here's the thing though, with technology, it's better nowadays because you have Find My Friends on your phone. You know where their phone is. And with Mallory, she's not going to be 2 feet away from her phone. That's just not possible. So I know where she is. Back in the day in 1992, it was good to have a project graduation because you knew like all the kids were locked in the Hazelwood Central, because if we didn't have that, who knows, God, where we would have been. I mean, we went all over the place. Like I had an MGB. We drive that thing to I drove that thing almost to Chicago one time with my buddies. We were just bored. We went up past Springfield, Illinois. We were bored. We were just like, let's go. We would do stuff like that all the time. Anyway, let's go over the feedback last week. Carrie Good says, wow, talk about reminiscing in this episode. We had a graduation ceremony at our high school after the ceremony overnight, like you did. I remember it being a great time to just hang out with our graduating class and karaoke. Thanks for the wonderful memory. Well, thank you, Carrie. And I'm glad you got that memory too. It's one of those things. I'm glad people put in. Thanks to all the parents and the volunteers who spend the night doing this. Cause I mean, you're probably tired for the whole entire weekend and it's a sacrifice, but I mean, it means a lot to the kids and the kids probably don't appreciate it at the time. It's all about them because they're seniors. Let's see. Trisha says, I'm the letdown post for the week. She says, I was so checked out of high school by graduation. I don't really remember it. To be fair, I moved right before starting my freshman year and was painfully shy. It took me a while to make friends. Sadly, this group fell into drugs and I was like a bit homeless my senior year. At that point, I thought myself into education more. I was more into education than socializing. That coupled with early admission to my top school, UW-Madison, I was just ready to be done. Looking back, I hope my kiddo has a better memory of high school graduation. Well, Trisha, I'm sorry that happened to you. And because I was quite the opposite. Like, I mean, you could probably hear it in last week's show. I loved high school. I mean, and I don't know. I know high school has a huge spectrum of experiences for everybody, but our high school was very similar to the high school Mallory's going to. Like when I went to our high school back, and it's very different now where I used to go. Our high school was like the best at sports in the state when I was going there. Like we had the best football team in the state back then. We had a very good baseball. We had very good athletics and very good academics. And if you were an athlete, you had it very easy in high school. Like the teachers would favor you. I mean, that's just how it was. So I was an athlete and I'm the first to admit the teachers gave you an easier way. And I saw that in high school. In hindsight, it probably wasn't right, but it made my high school experience more fun, and probably easier. But I mean, I also got good grades. I was in National Honor Society. I worked hard and always turned in my homework. I'm just hyper competitive. And I always wanted to have the best grades. And the people I hung out with they were all three smarter than I was. Two of them, one was valedictorian, one was salutatorian. So, I was kind of the dummy in the group, and I graduated 42nd in a class of 700. So, it was one of those things. Just I enjoyed it, but I also saw favoritism towards the athletic kids in our high school, and I still see that at Howell, where Mallory goes. If you're involved, the teachers tend to give you favor. But I also think that you kind of bring that on yourself too. Some of the, I think that kids nowadays, and I'm not saying this for you, Trisha, because I know that I think it's really hard if you move right before high school or right during high school. I think it's a really tough situation. But because again, you're right. I was a teacher. I tell kids, make sure you get involved with activities because I wish I was coaching. I would love to coach. That's what I miss about teaching is coaching. Is get involved with a program, a team, be in the band, be on the football team, be on the baseball team, be in National Honor Society, especially, get involved so that you immediately have a core group. And that way you have friends, but you have a core group and you have a something to chase down. And I think that's what carries you through high school. The more you're involved, the better your experience is going to be. And I hope your daughter does have great experience. But I understand that, right? You were already ready to move on to college. And I had friends. I actually had some other, besides my core group of friends, I had a lot of friends like that because I had other smart friends that were like, dude, they were so over high school because high school was not, they were mature beyond high school. Like they were just ready to get out of the amateur hour that high school was and move on to college. And I got it. But I wasn't that. Like I was ready for the fun of high school because I wasn't beyond that. But I did have some friends that were so smart. They were just like, this is nonsense. This isn't hard. There's no rigor here at Hazelwood Central. These kids are just acting like clowns, and they were, and I was probably one of them, but I was enjoying myself. So Trisha, I totally get it, but I hope your daughter does have a good experience. And thanks for the feedback. John Luther says, I missed the title of this week's episode, but when you started talking about after high school graduation, I wondered immediately if you'd be talking about project graduation. I graduated the year before you, also on a football field. I remember our party, also called Project Graduation, was an overnight, though it sounds like yours had more going on overall. Ours was also at the high school, and we were locked in. I remember hanging out with my friends, a lot of pizza, and a couple of bands made up of some classmates. As sentimental as I can be, I was pretty happy that high school was over. I needed and wanted a fresh start in college by that point. See, again, another person, job wanted to be out. I didn't want it to go. I knew that I had it well. But I mean, I also wasn't going away to school. I think there's a lot of that. I was going to Missouri Baptist College, which was a 20-minute drive from my house. But my three friends were all three going away to school, which really, really stunk. That was not good. I was sad about that. All right, my final piece of feedback here is from Dennis down in Texas. He says, I graduated the same year you did, Mike. Lafayette's graduation was held at Queenie Park. Dennis is from St. Louis, so I know where all these places. I speed skated at Queenie Park before. Someone just posted a video of the graduation ceremony on Facebook the other day. I forgot that they split the graduating class into two groups, A through L and M through Z. They alternated calling the names of the graduates and awarding diplomas between the two groups. That meant that I was among the last to get my diploma. We had the largest graduating class in the state that year, and it seemed like I waited forever to walk across the stage. My cap was a little too big for my head, and I had to carefully walk across the stage so it wouldn't fall off, but I got my diploma. Dennis, you're so smart. I'm positive you got your diploma. We too had a project graduation. Ours was held at the DoubleTree in Chesterfield. It had everything you mentioned: an abundance of food, dancing, karaoke, a photo booth, casino games, and with fake money, a raffle, and a slideshow to end the entire night. It was a lot of fun. I did not lament the night being the last time I would see a lot of my classmates, as about 70 of them were joining me at Mizzou in the fall, M-I-Z. I didn't get home until 7 a.m. I remember my parents telling me that the grocery store I worked at, bagging groceries and retrieving carts, called at 8 a.m., asking me to cover a shift. My parents said there was no chance of that happening, and I didn't get up until about 2 or 3 p.m. the next day. And I would guess that grocery store was probably Schnucks. Or could have been Deerberg's, I'm guessing. Great memories. I've actually DJ'd a wedding reception at that DoubleTree. Yes, that sounds exact. That's a St. Louis story right there. Graduating at Queenie. So my dad graduated from McClure. This is just for Dennis in 72. And back then they had the biggest high school in the state of Missouri, and they had to actually go to high school in shifts. That's how big the school was. Not just graduation in shifts, and they graduated from the Kiel Center. They did graduate in shifts, but they actually had high school in shifts. They couldn't fit the kids in the school during the day at one time. So they would have like a shift that started like at 6 a.m. and got out like at noon. And part of the kids would come in like from noon to like 6. That's how big the school was. But they always won state in football because they had so many kids. By the way, my uncle graduated with Michael McDonald. So if you're listening to Yacht Rock Radio, he went to McClure class of 68 with my uncle Randy, whose football team went undefeated and won state in Missouri. Just so you know, my dad graduated in 72. McClure. Okay. All right. Totally random there. But thanks for the feedback. You have feedback on this show or any other show, patreon.com/BeOurGuestPodcast. You guys are the best. And please keep sending in your messages because that is what this show is all about. And what's today's topic about that I want to hear about? You ask. Here it is. Totally random. And I'm trying to keep the show shorter because we have so many podcasts out there for you to listen to. I don't want to take up all your week. Here's what it's about. I had the most random dream last night. And this is total. I had Taco Bell for dinner last night, but I have Taco Bell for dinner every Monday night after I record the podcast. That's nothing unusual for me on a Monday night. So sometimes, people are like, what did you eat? Oh, I mean, I ate the same thing I ate every single Monday night. I had this dream where I wondered what happened to the art shirt that I used to wear when I went to art class in elementary school in first grade, because I was still at Duchesne Elementary, which I only went to Duchesne Elementary for kindergarten and first grade. And then my parents pulled me out of that school and I went to North County Christian after that for second to sixth. So I remember standing in line at this elementary school, Duchesne, in the district where I ended up teaching for 17 years, and my wife still teaches there. And I remember wearing this art shirt. Now, you guys probably remember this, right? You remember, like, in your school supplies, one of the things you always had to bring every year was an art shirt. And the art shirt had to be a button-up shirt, and it was usually your dad's, like, tore up flannel. And I remember my dad, because he was a construction worker, had like this, and he had lots of like flannel type work shirts. My dad's shirts always had like because my dad was a cement mason. He always had like concrete, like dried concrete on his shirt. So the shirt my dad gave me, or my mom picked out of my dad's old clothes or something, it was like red and gray flannel. And they were always like way big on us, right? Because we were like first graders. So you'd look like a kind of like a Charlie Brown character or something. You put this thing on, the sleeves were too long, but it had concrete like little pieces on it, like specks, almost like little like stuck on rocks. And that was my art shirt. And I just remember, like, I had this dream and I was wearing that shirt in this dream. And I got, during the dream, I just remember, like, I was like, where is that shirt? And I got to thinking, I wonder where that shirt is like nowadays. And so I started thinking about, I wonder where like little trinkets from our past actually are. Because the thing is, I know a lot of stuff goes to the landfill and, probably gets incinerated and stuff like that. But because this is probably my problem, because I listen to a lot of retro podcasts. I listen to podcasts for people that collect stuff a lot. I listen to people who go to they go to like antique malls. And I didn't know antique malls were anything more than like wrought iron furniture and stuff like that. But apparently antique malls nowadays have like Commodore 64s and Ataris and glasses from McDonald's in the 60s and 70s. I didn't know they had cool stuff like that. I thought it was all like grandma stuff. It's stuff I would like, but I guess it makes sense because I'm getting old. Anyway, so I started thinking about this topic after having this whacked out dream this morning, and I wanted to bring it to you. So I started thinking about, if this stuff didn't go to the landfill, and probably most of it did, but some of it may still be sitting somewhere in the world. And so I started thinking about, okay, what are some of the trinkets that I wonder, if they didn't go to the landfill, I wonder where they are right now. So I had a few things like that particular art shirt. I wonder where that art shirt is right now. Now, here's another whacked out thing that I was thinking about that I'd love to have. And I bet you they're somewhere, because if somebody had any kind of sense, they would have saved them. And you want to talk about random? Here it comes. So I mentioned this on Wednesday's podcast in the opening. In the office here, I have a little cheap TV that I hung on the wall that I play with no sound. I just have on just to keep me company while I'm working. And I have Pluto TV on this TV. It's a free service that displays old TV shows. And they have a Love Boat channel. So we're getting ready for the podcast cruise. And Love Boat is one of my favorite all-time shows. So I have it playing all the time, plays all these old Love Boat episodes. And I know that old ship that they recorded some of the episodes on, the Pacific Princess, it got decommissioned years and years ago, and it got sold for scrap. And they just what a shame, right? Oh my gosh. They sold the ship for scrap and they tore it up. They just ripped it up. They should have used it for a museum, but that's nor here nor there. But in a lot of the scenes in the background, there's like Christmas lights hanging. They're multicolor, big bulb Christmas lights. Well, if you know me, and I don't know if you know me that well, one of my favorite things is big bulb, multicolor, non-patterned Christmas lights. I'm not a fan of small LED lights. I'm not a fan of white icicle lights. I like all Christmas lights, but my favorite Christmas lights are like the 70s style, old fashioned, they get hot, big bulb Christmas lights that don't have any kind of pattern to them. They can be all different colors, just random colors. And in a lot of the scenes in the Love Boat, as I have it on right now, I see them. I wonder if anybody kept any of those strands of lights as like a souvenir or some kind of memento from the show. Somebody has to have those, and they have to be sitting somewhere in Los Angeles or somewhere in a museum. Somebody has to be a huge Love Boat fan, and they have to be somewhere. I wonder where those are. I've wondered about that. Personally, here's another thing I'm wondering about. This is, again, totally random. At my grandma and grandpa's house, This is so bizarre. I don't know why I thought about this. My grandpa would watch, he would sit in his chair. And here's the thing. I have my grandpa's rocker in my house. So right outside my studio door here in the basement, I have my grandpa's rocker that he sat in for like 30 years. This was the sweetest gift ever. For our wedding gift, my wife got my grandpa's rocker because my grandpa was my hero. My wife got my grandpa's rocker and got it reupholstered because it was tore up. It was beat up, and got it for me and got the wood, all the armrests refinished, and got it reupholstered and got it brought to our house. And that was my wedding gift. And it was so sweet of her to do that. I love that. And I still have it. It's sitting in my basement right outside my door, actually, here in the studio. And it's right there. And so my grandma and grandpa both have one, but I have my grandpa's. It's about to make me tear up thinking about it. It's so sweet. But anyway, my grandpa would sit in that rocker every night. And then this is how old it is. He would sit there and watch Johnny Carson every night. I just remember this. He'd always watch Johnny Carson. He loved Johnny Carson. And when he would watch Johnny Carson, my grandpa would eat I guess they were walnuts. I don't know. They were big nuts that he had a nutcracker for. Like, it wasn't like a nutcracker like you see, with like a person, like a marionette or anything. It was just like a claw or something. And he would take these walnuts and he would just crack them and just eat the nut out of the shell. But what I wonder where it is now is that he had this tray that he put the nuts in, and he would just always it was like shaped like a Christmas tree, and it stayed out all year. I wonder where that tray is. It was a plastic tray. I would love to have that tray. Like, it probably went to the landfill because nobody cared. It was probably worth like $1.97 from Kmart, but it was just always there. I would love to have that tray just to put some nuts in right here in the studio. That'd be the bomb. Okay, the last thing, because this is going way too long, and this is the dumbest idea for a show ever. But you got to have something like this. The feedback from this could be epic. I just have a feeling the feedback from this could be epic. Is why I'm going for this. Here's the last thing. And man, what I would pay $100 for this if I could find it, because this is something I would love to have for my child. And I don't want to go on eBay and buy one. I probably could. I want the one from my childhood. So my parents got divorced when I was in college. They, and everything kind of went here, there, because I was out of the house, and everything kind of disappeared from my childhood. But when I was in middle school, you want to talk about sign of the times, in my bedroom, I had a Swatch watch clock. So it wasn't like I had a Swatch watch too. I mean, I was fancy, like in 7th grade. But I had on my wall, it was a big Swatch watch clock. It was probably, because the bands were tall, it was probably 3 feet, 4 feet, like, from the top of the band to the bottom of the band, like tall. And it said Swatch on it, but the middle was a clock, like the face. I wonder where that thing ended up. It probably ended up in the landfill, but if somebody had, like, how would you throw that away? It was so cool. It was like black bands, and it had a cool like face on it. Oh, I would kill to have that back and just have that hanging here in the office. It was the coolest. So I wonder, like, where do things like that go? Because I wonder, like, did my mom give it to somebody? Did my mom just? I don't think you would throw it in the trash. Like, did she take it to Goodwill? And if it went to Goodwill, did somebody buy it? Is it in Michigan right now? Is it in Iowa? Is it in, I don't know. Is it in Africa? Where is it? Like, I would just love if you could just snap your fingers and see, okay, this piece of my childhood is sitting here right now. I would love to. That's the kind of stuff I think about. I know my brain doesn't work right. It's weird. Anyway, I'm turning it over to you. What from your past do you ever wonder about, like, where is that thing? If I could just track it, like right now with Find My on your iPhone, you could put an AirTag on something and know where it is. If you could do that with something from your past, what would it be? Let me know. Patreon.com/BeOurGuestPodcast. Let's have some fun next Tuesday. This could be wild. I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for letting me do what I love. And I hope you enjoy the podcast this week. Listener questions, sleeper hits from table service restaurants coming your way. And more importantly, you guys just have a great week. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for your support. Have a good one. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you real soon.